Top 10 largest solid waste landfills in the world. The top spot covers a staggering 1.6 million square kilometers. 99% of people have no idea this exists, according to World Bank data. The average American generates about 2 kilograms of solid waste every single day. In 2023 alone, the United States produced nearly 258 million tons of solid waste. Keep in mind, the total U.S. population is only just over 300 million, accounting for 4.3% of the global population. It is not hard to imagine just how overwhelming the amount of waste produced globally each year really is. To manage all this trash, countless landfills have been established worldwide, some even larger than entire cities or small countries. In today's video, we will explore the 10 largest super landfills across the globe. You might find it hard to believe, but a modern metropolis like Guangzhou, China, harbors a massive landfill that rivals its own prosperity. This is the Xingfeng Landfill, covering an area of 0.92 square kilometers. It is located in Xingfeng, in the northeastern part of Guangzhou. Behind the quiet rural scenery of this area lies a staggering ecological challenge. Stepping into this zone, you will realize that every inch of ground here bears the heavy burden of the city's waste. Since construction began in 2000, it has witnessed Guangzhou's evolution. The waste volume of this megacity climbed year after year, originally designed for a 20-year lifespan. The landfill reached full capacity in just 10 short years. The daily average waste processing skyrocketed from 1,500 to 4,500 tons, ultimately transforming it into a literal trash empire. However, this trash empire is far from peaceful. For those setting foot in Xingfeng Landfill for the first time, the site is like something out of a post-apocalyptic movie. Countless trash bags are piled into mountains. The stench of rot permeates the air, and flocks of crows circle overhead. Occasionally, you will see smoking piles of trash, a grim reminder of the frequent spontaneous combustion events that occur here. This self-ignition phenomenon is caused by decomposition reactions deep within the waste, which produce large amounts of flammable gases such as methane. Landfill managers must frequently employ cooling treatments to prevent large-scale infernos. Despite this, the stench problem of Xingfeng Landfill continues to leave nearby villagers in absolute misery. Even though the site is far from the city center, when the wind blows just right, the foul odor carries for kilometers into residential areas. In recent years, Guangzhou has faced numerous complaints and media exposure regarding the landfill's odor issues. What is even more terrifying is that the problem at Xingfeng Landfill is not just about the sheer volume of trash. The trash piles continue to grow higher. The internal pressure also increases. The amount of leachate produced on site is staggering. While Xingfeng is equipped with leachate treatment facilities, confronting such a massive volume of waste, the current processing capacity remains woefully inadequate. If you ever encountered this landfill up close, you might think you have been transported to an alien world. It is like an all-consuming beast, swallowing endless amounts of material every day, leaving the land scarred and unrecognizable. This is the Puente Landfill, located in northwest Hong Kong. It has been in operation since 1993 and has become one of the largest landfills in the entire territory. According to statistics, this landfill processes over 6,500 tons of waste every single day, accounting for 45% of Hong Kong's total waste. This might look like a simple figure at first glance, but the reality is truly staggering. This massive landfill buries up to 2.4 million tons of trash every year. That is enough to fill over 70 Olympic-sized swimming pools. But the issue is not just about the sheer volume of garbage. The surface area of this site has reached 1.1 square kilometers, equivalent to the size of 154 standard football fields. It is truly immense. The waste continues to pile up. The height of this mountain of trash has exceeded 20 meters, tall enough to submerge a 5-story building. Walking into this kingdom of garbage, a pungent stench mixes with various indescribable chemical substances lingering in the air. Even when wearing a gas mask, it is difficult to fully escape that suffocating sensation. After the rain, the landfill reveals an even darker side. Toxic runoff flows everywhere, forming patches of black lakes. Like a silent protest from Mother Nature, This waste is not just made of harmless paper scraps and plastic bags. It is riddled with vast amounts of toxic materials and non-biodegradable electronic waste. The decomposition time for these items can last for hundreds of years, or they may simply never break down at all. Although the government has implemented landfill gas capture systems and other environmental facilities to mitigate the environmental impact, it feels like trying to plug a leak in a sinking ship during a flood. The landfill continues to expand relentlessly. In 2021, the facility announced a further expansion of its capacity, with plans to remain in use until 2035. Such news is undoubtedly disheartening. In January 2016, a sudden and massive fire at the Deonar Landfill in Mumbai, India, became the focus of global news. Raging flames that lasted for several days engulfed this site with over 90 years of history. A pervasive toxic smog blanketed Mumbai, forcing local schools to close and affecting the health of millions of residents. Air quality plummeted sharply, with PM2.5 levels soaring to hazardous heights. The Deonar Landfill is one of India's oldest and largest dumping grounds. Covering 1.32 square kilometers, it processes approximately 5,500 tons of trash daily. Located in the eastern suburbs of Mumbai, it has been in operation since 1927 and has accumulated over 16 million tons of waste. If you were to pile this trash into a single tower, its height would rival many modern skyscrapers. Deonar is not just a collection point for Mumbai's waste, it is the primary processing hub for the city's domestic refuse. However, due to a lack of modern waste management facilities and an effective sorting mechanism, trash at Deonar piles up like mountains. Fermenting and decaying, this produces vast amounts of harmful gases. The methane released during decomposition, along with other greenhouse gases, has become a major source of environmental pollution, even posing a constant risk of spontaneous combustion. The Great Fire of 2016 was just the tip of the iceberg. Similar blazes have occurred many times throughout the landfill's history. During the rainy season, hazardous substances from the waste seep into groundwater, threatening the safety of drinking water in surrounding communities. Relevant investigations show that groundwater near the landfill has tested positive for toxic substances and heavy metals. These substances pose an extreme danger to human health. And yet, what is truly shocking is that such a monstrous landfill exists at all. Waste continues to pour in without end. The Mumbai municipal government has attempted several times to implement waste sorting and recycling programs. However, due to a lack of resources and poor management, these measures have yielded very little fruit. In stark contrast, illegal recycling activities are thriving. On the outskirts of the Deonar landfill, thousands of scavengers gather year-round. They make a living by picking through and sorting trash. This informal recycling network recovers about 200 tons of waste daily, but compared to the total volume of the landfill, it is merely a drop in the ocean. In 2017, at a landfill in the Indian capital of New Delhi, a human tragedy unfolded. A mountain of garbage, as tall as a 17-story building, collapsed after being washed out by heavy rain. This triggered a literal tsunami of trash, engulfing nearby vehicles and roads. It even tragically claimed several lives. This disaster looked like a scene straight out of a movie, leaving everyone speechless. New Delhi has 3 major landfills: Hazipur, Okla, and Balswa. Their combined area is equivalent to approximately 1.71 square kilometers, roughly equal to 240 football fields. The Ghazipur landfill, in particular, stands as New Delhi's oldest waste disposal site. Established in 1984, it reached its original design capacity back in 2002. And yet, to this day, waste continues to pile up at this site. Its height has now reached approximately 65 meters, equivalent to a 20-story building. It nearly rivals the height of New Delhi's famous landmark, the Qutub Minar. Every single day, New Delhi generates about 11,000 tons of waste. The recycling rate is only around 30%. Consequently, the remaining 70% of trash is dumped directly onto these garbage mountains, continuing their monstrous growth. These 3 landfills have accumulated over 28 million tons of waste. While these sites were long ago declared overcapacity, there is currently no alternative solution in sight. Rotting waste produces toxic methane gas, which perpetually lingers over the landfills. According to reports, the sites have repeatedly ignited through spontaneous combustion, becoming a permanent fixture in the lives of Delhi residents, a metaphorical time bomb. Once a fire breaks out, it is incredibly difficult to extinguish. Flames can burn for days or even weeks. Not only does air quality deteriorate, but the respiratory health of nearby residents is also compromised. Whenever the monsoon season arrives, the threat from these landfills becomes even more pronounced. Heavy rainfall destabilizes the massive piles of waste, increasing the risk of landslides. This forces the residents living around the landfills to endure the rainy season with their hearts in their mouths, dreading the next collapse of the garbage mountain and whether it will swallow their homes. The New Delhi government promised in 2019 to take decisive action by converting waste into energy through incineration. However, due to constraints in technology and funding, progress on these measures has been painfully slow. In 2013, a resident of Rome was driving near a landfill. When they suddenly lost control of the vehicle, they nearly plunged into a nearby ditch. The pungent, suffocating stench in the air had caused them to become dizzy and nauseous, making it impossible to concentrate. He did not even realize it, but he was approaching one of Europe's largest waste sites, Malagrotta, located on the outskirts of Rome, Italy. Malagrotta covers approximately 2.4 square kilometers. Operating since 1984, it once swallowed over 90% of the entire city's municipal waste. Over the decades, this landfill has not just become a massive collection point for refuse, it has become a ground zero for air, soil, and water pollution. This gargantuan landfill has devoured countless plastic bags, old furniture, food scraps, and construction debris, and even hazardous industrial waste. Every day, over 4,500 tons of trash were hauled here, piling up like mountains. The accumulated waste is enough to form a literal hill. Rome, an ancient city of immense culture, should be world-renowned for its magnificent architecture and its enduring history, not for an uncontrollable landfill. Every year, the city pours millions of dollars into managing this waste crisis, sinking massive funds into landfilling and transportation. But while the trash piles up on the surface, unsettling changes are happening underground. As time passes, decomposing waste generates vast amounts of methane and other toxic gases. These gases do not just severely impact the local air quality. They also drastically spike the risk of explosions and fires. Although Malagrotta was forced to shut down in 2011 due to environmental regulations, the site still houses active facilities. Mechanical biological treatment plants continue to process a large portion of Rome's daily waste. However, a sudden, massive fire completely shattered the local peace. Specifically, one of the primary treatment plants faced a year-long closure risk. Daily capacity dropped by 900 tons, leading directly to mountains of trash in Rome's streets. Residents' lives were heavily affected. According to statistics, on the day the fire broke out, there were 2,500 tons of waste left uncollected on the streets of Rome. City cleaning plans had to be urgently adjusted. You can imagine Rome's reliance on this landfill, thus like drinking poison to quench thirst. Once upon a time, over the skies of Los Angeles, there drifted an unmistakable, foul odor. A driver on the road, unable to bear the stench, was forced to pull over and roll up all the windows. Reportedly, the source of this smell was just 10 kilometers from the city, the monstrous landfill, known as Puente Hills. Puente Hills Landfill is located in eastern Los Angeles. Established in 1957, it covers about 2.83 square kilometers, equivalent to roughly 530 football fields. One of the busiest waste facilities in Southern California, and indeed the entire U.S. Puente Hills received a daily total of up to 12,000 tons of waste, from household trash to industrial byproducts. This site essentially handled most of Los Angeles waste processing. Before its official closure in 2013, Puente Hills processed over 130 million tons of garbage, after decades of filling. The trash piles at Puente Hills once reached a height of 150 meters. If you looked at it from afar, it resembles an artificial mountain peak that has grown out of nowhere, standing tall on the fringes of the city. This forces people to stop and reflect. What exactly was this mountain fed with to become so massive? In fact, Behind the formation of this landfill lies Los Angeles' relentless urban sprawl and its culture of consumerism. It's one of the most populous cities in the United States. The waste generated by Los Angeles every day is enough to fill a medium-sized stadium. Back in the 1970s, with the explosion of the urban population, the expansion of the landfill far exceeded all expectations. Despite constant capacity increases, Puente Hills eventually had to throw in the towel before the torrent of trash. In 2013, it was forced to announce its closure to protect the surrounding environment from further degradation. However, the story of Puente Hills did not end there. After closing, the landfill was not abandoned, but was instead transformed into a massive resource recovery project. Every year, the methane gas produced by these landfills can generate approximately 50 megawatts of electricity, enough to power 70,000 households. Nowadays, standing atop this mountain of waste that once reeked of decay, looking down at the Los Angeles metropolitan area, it feels like a different perspective entirely, witnessing the complex struggle between humanity and nature. The core of Shanghai's waste management, the Laogang Landfill covers an area exceeding 4.1 square kilometers, bearing the weight of massive amounts of waste from across the city daily, according to official data. The daily volume of waste received by Laogang Landfill reaches as high as 20,000 tons. The total annual amount of domestic waste in Shanghai has even surpassed 9 million tons. However, Laogang Landfill is not just a final destination for trash. It also shoulders the heavy responsibility of environmental protection. To cope with the environmental pressure of such vast amounts of waste, Laogang Landfill has undergone technical upgrades in recent years, gradually evolving into a modernized waste treatment base. In fact, as early as the year 2000, Laogang launched a landfill gas-to-energy project. This was one of the earliest projects of its kind in China. These landfill gases consist of methane produced by decomposing waste through specialized equipment. This methane is converted into electrical energy to supply the surrounding areas. According to statistics, the electricity generated by Laogang Landfill annually is sufficient to support the power needs of nearly 100,000 households. Of course, landfill gas power generation alone is far from enough to treat waste more efficiently and further reduce its environmental impact. Laogang also established waste-to-energy incineration plants. Incineration can significantly reduce the volume of waste, while the thermal energy from the combustion process is converted into electrical resources. In 2022, the power generation of the Laogang incineration plant reached 1 billion kilowatt-hours, equivalent to the annual output of dozens of wind farms. This also drastically reduced the amount of landfill waste and the occupation of precious land resources. In 2019, Shanghai officially implemented a strict waste sorting system, categorized into wet waste, dry waste, hazardous waste, and recyclables. This policy has not only significantly reduced the total volume of domestic waste, but also increased the utilization rate of renewable resources. According to statistics, after the implementation of the sorting system, Shanghai's waste recycling rate has increased from, the recycling rate has climbed from 20% to 35%. As a result, the Laogang landfill has seen a significant decrease in the volume of waste entering the site. The efficiency of waste-to-energy incineration and landfill gas recovery has further improved. Despite this, the landfill's volume is still growing, at a rate visible to the naked eye. If left unchecked, Shanghai may need even more waste treatment facilities in the future. In 2008, local journalists ventured deep into the Bordo Poniente landfill and captured a series of photographs. They revealed thousands upon thousands of scavengers, scouring this vast wasteland for recyclable materials. They walk barefoot across mountains of trash, where every step seems to land on broken glass, rotting food, and hazardous chemicals. It is a truly heartbreaking scene. The origins of the Bordo Poniente landfill can be traced back to the 1980s. At that time, Mexico City began to expand rapidly, leading to a sharp increase in urban waste production. By 2011, Bordo Poniente had become one of the largest landfills in the world. Covering an area of over 6 square kilometers, it received approximately 12,000 tons of waste daily. That is a staggering figure, enough to make anyone imagine the speed at which a mountain of trash forms. During the annual rainy season, the groundwater systems surrounding the landfill become contaminated. Landfill leachate seeps into surface water sources, severely impacting the health of residents in nearby communities. Harmful gases from decaying waste permeate the air. Near the landfill, scavengers have formed their own way of life. They rely on finding sellable items in the trash to survive, while this is a means of livelihood for them. It simultaneously exposes them to grave health risks. Their working conditions are atrocious, lacking any protective equipment and involving daily contact with toxic substances. Despite these persistent issues, it was not until 2011 that the Mexican government officially decided to close the Bordo Poniente landfill. The decision to close it was a forced necessity, as the site could no longer sustain the accumulation of urban waste, and methane emissions posed a massive safety hazard. However, even after its closure, the environmental problems left behind cannot be easily solved. Methane continues to be released from within the landfill, and the soil contamination could take decades or even longer to be effectively remediated. In Incheon, South Korea, lies a massive landfill. Its scale is so magnificent, it is comparable to an entire city. This is the Sudokwon Landfill. This colossal waste site, one of the largest waste treatment facilities in the world, spanning an area of approximately 20 square kilometers, that is as large as 2,800 football fields. It does not just handle daily waste from Seoul, but also from Incheon and other cities. It processes waste for the entire Seoul metropolitan area, serving a population of about 25 million people. Waste flows here in a never-ending stream. In the capital region, an average of over 20,000 tons of trash daily sent to the landfill. This is equivalent to throwing away a massive Eiffel Tower every single day. Since operations began in 1992, the total amount of buried waste has exceeded 140 million tons, with trash piling up like mountains. The height of the landfill is already approaching 120 meters. It is equivalent to a 40-story skyscraper. At such a massive scale, you simply cannot ignore its existence. The waste at the Sudokwon landfill comes from a vast array of sources, covering every single aspect of daily life. From household domestic trash to industrial materials and electronic waste, you name it, they have it here. In order to manage the stench, the landfill has installed complex odor control systems, costing millions of dollars every year just to improve the air quality. Despite these efforts, nearby residents still catch a whiff from time to time of an unbearable, foul odor. Especially during the summer, rising temperatures cause the piles of garbage to release even more methane gas. The entire area feels as if it were trapped inside an invisible gas chamber. If you think the smell is the only problem here, then you are dead wrong. The water treatment facilities at the landfill process nearly 100,000 units of leachate every day. This leachate is the hazardous liquid produced. During the decomposition of garbage piles, it contains heavy metals, toxic chemicals, and various other pollutants. Although this water undergoes multiple treatment processes before being discharged into the natural environment, we can't help but ask, can these invisible pollutants ever be truly eliminated? When you think of Las Vegas, what likely springs to mind are the neon-lit casinos, luxury hotels, and the eternally vibrant nightlife. But away from those dazzling lights, you will find a place where the sun do not shine. The Apex Regional Landfill. It serves as the grim ultimate destination for all that glitz and glamour. Apex Regional is situated to the north of Las Vegas, spanning over 121 square kilometers. Such a massive area is equivalent to nearly half the size of the Las Vegas metropolitan area. It is large enough to contain several medium-sized cities. The landfill here was one of the largest waste disposal sites in the United States, processing millions of tons of waste annually, becoming the hidden behemoth behind Sin City. According to the data, Apex can process over 3 million tons of waste every year, enough to fill up an entire skyscraper. In fact, Apex was not originally intended to be a landfill. Instead, in the early 20th century, it was planned as an industrial park. However, in the 1980s, a large-scale mountain development project in the Apex area was forced to shut down due to contamination issues. Soon after, the primary function of the area shifted to ensuring that the waste generated by Las Vegas and its surroundings could be promptly and safely disposed of. While the city's lights shine brilliantly at night, countless garbage trucks quietly head toward Apex, carrying refuse from casinos, hotels, and millions of tourists. The sky over Apex is a permanent, hazy yellow, especially in the summer, when temperatures often soar above 40 degrees Celsius. The blistering heat, combined with the chemical stench of industrial waste, creates a suffocating sense of oppression. perhaps on an ordinary evening. You might see flocks of vultures circling above the landfill. It looks like a scene straight out of the apocalypse. Can you even imagine it? In the heart of the vast Pacific Ocean floats a massive island of trash. It is larger than some entire countries. That is right. This is what we call the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, a man-made continent of waste. The direct result of humanity's relentless plastic pollution, its area has reached a staggering 1.6 million square kilometers. That is equivalent to 5,888 Taipei cities. It is larger than the total landmass of Germany, France, and Spain combined. It is nearly 3 times the size of Japan. Sounds unbelievable, does not it? But this is the grim reality. The formation of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch did not happen overnight. Its earliest records can be traced back to the 1980s. Oceanographers were the first to notice that ocean currents seem to carry plastics from across the globe and concentrate them in a specific region of the North Pacific. This waste drifts from Asia, North America, and even South America, carried by winds and currents, gathering in what is known as the massive North Pacific Gyre system. This gyre acts like an invisible, giant net, trapping trash in a remote corner of the Pacific. Year after year, the waste continued to accumulate until it formed this monstrous pollution zone we see today. The horror of this garbage patch lies not just in its sheer scale, but in its composition on the surface. This floating plastic waste appears to be bottles, plastic bags, or fishing nets, but more frighteningly, these plastics, over the course of time, gradually break down into microplastics invisible to the naked eye. These tiny particles are scattered throughout the sea, drifting everywhere with the water flow, becoming food for marine life, and eventually ending up on our dinner tables. Data shows that over 1 million seabirds and 100,000 marine mammals perish due to plastic pollution. For animals living in the deep ocean, Great Pacific Garbage Patch is like a death trap. Once they enter, the chances of survival are slim to none. What is even more shocking is that these plastic wastes do not biodegrade naturally. Common plastics like polyethylene and polypropylene require hundreds of years to fully decompose. And during this long process, they constantly shatter into smaller particles, further contaminating the oceans. Currently, nations and environmental groups worldwide working tirelessly to solve this issue. For instance, some innovators have proposed using large-scale cleaning devices to reclaim plastic waste from the sea. However, faced with a pollution crisis of this magnitude, these solutions are merely a drop in the bucket. All right, that concludes everything for today's video. Out of the 11 largest landfills we introduced today, which one left the deepest impression on you? Feel free to let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and subscribe, and share it with your friends. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next one.